All right, guys, so now we're going to start to deal with state, and we're also going to deal with embedding components into other components. What I want to do is I want to have a component called contacts, plural, and inside that contacts component, we want to have our state, which holds all the different contacts. So basically an object that has different contacts with the name, email, and phone number. And then inside that contacts component, I want to loop through the people or the contacts in that state and then output a specific contact module or not module, component for each one. So we'll loop through it and output a contact component for each contact. Okay, so if that confuses you, it'll be more clear as we do it. So let's go ahead and create a new component in here, and we're going to call this contacts, plural, .js. Okay, so this definitely has to be a class-based component because it's going to have state. So let's do rcc tab, or you can just type this stuff out. I'm just going to move the export default down to the bottom here and export contacts. Okay, so now to add state, there's actually two ways that we can do it. Okay, we can use a constructor. You guys know what a constructor is. It's basically a method that runs when the object, or in this case the component, is mounted. So let's say constructor, and when you have a constructor, as you saw in the ES6 refresher, and you have a parent, you're extending something, you want to call the super method like that. And then in here is where we can create our state. We can say this dot state equals, and it's going to be an object. And then inside here we want contacts, which will be an array of contacts. Okay, so let's say, we need an object. So it's an array of objects, and we're going to say name John Doe and email, let's say jdoe at gmail, and then let's do phone. And you know what? I'm also going to give these people an ID as well. So let's say ID1. All right, because usually if you're dealing with a database, which you most likely will be in a real application, you'll probably have some kind of ID. So let's grab this and let's create two more. So we'll go like that, and we'll have ID 1, 2, 3. So this one here, this contact, let's say Karen Williams, and we'll change her email address and phone number. Okay, and then for this guy here, let's change him to Henry Johnson, and we'll change his email to Henry at Gmail. All right, so we have state now for this component. We just have an array of contacts. And down here in the render, what we want to do is we want to basically take that state, which is we want to take the contacts from the state. We want to loop through and then we want to output a contact component for each one, and then insert the properties through the object, okay, whatever is held in the properties. So let's go ahead and above the return, let's just do a little destructuring, and let's pull out from the state the contacts. Okay, so we'll say contacts equals this dot state. We're not setting contacts to this dot state, we're pulling it out. Okay, we're using destructuring using the curly braces. And then here what we're going to do is loop through the contacts. Now in React we used map. Okay, remember we went over map back in the ES6 refresher. So we're going to put in an expression with curly braces, and we're going to say contacts, which is what we just pulled from state, and we're going to say dot map, and for each one we'll say contact, and then we're going to use an arrow here, and then we want to put a set of parentheses and then what we want to render for each contact. Okay, so I could render anything. I could say H1, and we could say in here contact dot name. Let's see what that, well, actually we can't see what that does yet because we haven't included it. So let's go to our app.js and let's bring in contacts. We actually don't have to bring in contact anymore because we're not going to be using it here anymore. This is going to come in into the contacts.js. We don't need it here. So let's just add an S to this and bring in contacts, and then we can completely get rid of these two, and just put in contacts like that. And let's save, and we get an error. Let's see, what did I do? Looks like I made an error in the state. What the heck? Looks like something happened to this ending curly brace. All right, let's fix that. And there we go. So we're getting the name of each contact. So just to reiterate, we have state that holds a value of, or a key of contacts, and the value is an array. And then down here, we're pulling the contacts out of the state, and we're looping through them with map. And then we're basically just returning contact.name and h1 with contact.name for each one, and that's what it's displaying. Now that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is display a contact component for each iteration. Okay, so for each contact that's in the state. So I have to bring that in. Now you can do IMP tab if you're using that extension, and it will give you kind of this boilerplate, and then you can change this to, let's say, ./contact, and we'll go over here and let's say import contact from contact. So that means that we can now use this component. So we're going to go down here, and instead of just an h1, we don't want to do that. We want to put in, let's put this on a new line. We want to put in contact. Now remember, this takes in some properties, so we have to insert those properties. So we could do name equals contact dot name, and what else was there? Email equals contact dot email, and we could do what was phone? So phone equals contact dot phone. Okay, so let's save that, and there we go. So now it's looping through the contacts in the state. Now one thing I want to show you is if I go to my console, let's go console, it's going to give me an error. It says, or not an error, but a warning. It says each child in an array or iterator should have a unique key. Okay, so it wants you to have a key value for our contact, and it should be unique. Now each contact has an ID, and that's usually what you use for a key. So we're just going to add on to this and say key equals ID, and if I save that, that warning should go away. Oh, I'm sorry, contact ID, and save. All right, so now we don't get that warning anymore. Now if we look in our React tools down here, and we look at, let's make this a little bigger, let's look at our contact component. So we have 3 of them here, and notice if I click on one and we look down here, it shows us the props, right? And it also shows us the key. Now if I click on contacts, it's going to show us the state. So inside the state we have, it says we have an array with 3 items in it, and it shows us each one. Okay, so the React Dev tools are really handy for seeing your entire structure of your React app, and then also looking at props and state and stuff like that. All right, now there is an easier way to create our state here. We actually don't need a constructor in this case. If you need a constructor for some other reason, some kind of initialization or something like that, then you would do it this way. But if you're only using your constructor to create your state, you don't have to do that. You can simply just have state equals and then the state. So what I'll do is just get rid of everything here behind the state. Okay, so get rid of the constructor and then just get rid of this down here. So now we just have state equals and then our object, and if I save, everything should still work just fine. Okay, so just a little bit of cleanup. Now another thing that I want to do to clean things up is, instead of passing in the name, the email, the phone, and stuff like that, why don't we pass in the entire contact? Okay, I think that would be a better solution here. So instead of doing this, let's say contact equals and just contact, and then we can get rid of these two. So now what we're doing is, instead of passing in each individual field, we're passing in the entire contact object that comes from here. All right, and then the key will stay the same. We just want the ID for the key. But now if we do that and we save, it's going to mess things up because our contact is expecting a name, email, and phone from the props. So we have to adjust this. So now we just have a prop of this.props.contact, right? So instead of taking all these, let's say contact, and down here we could do contact.name and contact.email, contact.phone, and let's save that, and now it works. Okay, if we want to take it a step further with destructuring, we could just put it back how we had it, so name, email, phone, except it's not coming directly from props, it's coming from the contact value in the props. Okay, so now we can actually put this back to just name, email, and phone. And I know I didn't have to just do that, but I wanted to kind of show you, get you more familiar with how destructuring works. So let's save that, see if that works, and there we go. All right, so let's see. Let's make sure we don't have any errors here, which we do. The prop name is marked as required. Oh, so we have to adjust our prop types, because no longer do we have this.props.name.email.phone. We just have one contact prop. So let's change this to contact, and it's no longer a string, it's an object. So we want to change this to object, and we'll save, and there we go. We get rid of those warnings. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this video. I think we did quite a bit here. We created a whole new component with some state, and we used the map high order array method to loop through our contacts and then output the single contact component with a property of contact. Okay, so in the next video we're going to look at events. What I want to do is I want a little icon next to the name, and I want to be able to click it to toggle this stuff to show the contact info. So we'll need a click event to do that, and we'll also deal a little bit with component state and so on. So we'll do that in the next video, so I will see you then.